Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, West Coast. I'm Weather and Radar Meteorologist Becca Parker. Today we're going to be going over the very interesting event that's going on across the Southwest. We have the first CONUS hitting tropical storm of the season hitting the West Coast. And we're going to be talking about what's going on in Southern California up into the West and into Nevada as far as excessive rainfall, a lot of flooding coming from this situation, and what else you can expect from Tropical Storm Hilary as it continues moving northward. A couple of things to take care of before we get started. I did put in the chat that we will be taking your questions throughout this live event, so be sure to drop those in there. I'll take a look at it throughout the event so that we can answer your questions and get you the latest information that you can get from this. Also, follow along in the Weather and Radar app. Everything I'm going to be showing you today on our app is available to you for free, completely for free, so you can get the latest information from Hilary's impacts that are going to be coming through. So be sure to follow along in there, and that's also available in Spanish. So to our Spanish users that are using the app as well, we are updating for this event throughout this entire event and more on our Spanish side of the app as well. So be sure to tune in there. All right. So let me double check for any beginning questions. We're good to go there. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining. First of all, again, I'm Weather and Radar Meteorologist Becca Parker. If you've got a question, it's likely somebody else has the exact same question, so be sure to drop those in the chat. Right now, what you're looking at right behind me is the Tropical Storm Hilary that is moving up Baja California along the peninsula here and is going to eventually be moving into Southern California later this evening. And this has been an interesting event as ever since it did form several days ago. It did get up to Category 4 hurricane strength, major hurricane strength, and has quickly come down to a tropical storm. And this is all due to cooler water temperatures across the Gulf of California here, as well as these high peaks that are along the Baja California Peninsula. You got peaks up to just over 10,000 feet high. So that can really knock tropical waves back when it comes to interacting with those high peaks. So that's really shearing it down. And so now we have Tropical Storm Hilary, but that doesn't mean the impacts do go away. What this means, all that means is that its winds are lowered. So what is coming from this event are the heavy flooding rains, and that's what we're watching throughout the rest of today, through the evening, and even a little bit into Monday. And for folks up in the Northwest, even into Monday and Tuesday. We'll go over that in a little bit. So again, what you see here behind me is the weather radar, and this is showing the heavy rainfall that is moving through as Hilary does move northward. You can also see the temperatures across the Southwest here, and the satellite imagery showing the clouds as this does turn northward. So you see a lot here on the weather radar. You get a lot of information just in one spot here. So we do see those heavy rains that have already been moving into California and even up here into Nevada already since overnight last night. We expect the bulk of it to be peaking throughout this afternoon into the evening hours as Hilary does move northward. Double check for questions while we're here. Perfect. All right. So let's go into what we can expect from Hilary throughout the rest of today. Let me turn this off right here. And pull up the window. Alrighty, so on my screen now is the map from the National Hurricane Center showing the area where Hilary can expect to be within, the eye of Hilary can be expect to be within throughout the next 36 hours or less than 36 hours now as it does move north-northwest. So Hilary is here, like I showed before, on the weather radar right off the coast of the Baja California Peninsula, and is expected to move into Southern California by this evening. So by dinner time, get into dinner time in Southern California here, and they're already feeling the effects. In fact, all these blue items right here, these are tropical storm warnings. And this is, for Southern California, this is the first tropical storm. They had the first tropical storm watch, and then now the tropical storm warnings as this is moving into the north-northwest as Hilary moves in that direction. So we do expect to see Hilary move up into the north-northwest direction and lower its intensity as far as the winds go, but the heavy rain is really what you want to be paying attention to. So by 5 a.m. on Monday in Pacific time, we are looking at a depression here over west central Nevada. So what that means is we've got a lot of interesting stuff going on. We're going to expect that rainfall. And what is guiding Hilary northward is an interesting setup here that we have in the US. So this is at the 500 millibar level. This is just higher up in the atmosphere in the upper levels. And what this shows is the pressure systems in the upper levels. This is really what drives what's happening here at the surface. So I'm going to explain what these mean. So these are wind barbs right here. And if you think of it like an arrow with a feather at the end of it, these barbs here are the feather and the arrow is going that way. It is moving away. So this is a high pressure sitting right here over the central US. Those of you that are over the central US, this is what's responsible for those toasty temperatures that are across the area right now, even breaking temperature records and during the day and even at night. That's what's bringing that right now. But we do have the low pressure, which let me see if I can move this around a little bit. Let's see. Nope, that's okay. Well, we have the low pressure that is right here off of the coast of California, and that's moving in a counterclockwise direction. So the counterclockwise direction of that plus the clockwise direction of the high pressure here is just causing an area that you can move northward. And that is what Hilary is following as these pressure systems are in place. So that's why we're seeing that. So let's get into the rainfall that we're going to be seeing from this system. I'm going to turn my camera off just so you can see that. We have a high risk for excessive rainfall. And what that means is this is the biggest risk that you can have for excessive rainfall. And that extends all the way from Southern California into Southern Nevada even. And this is really across the desert areas and on the eastern sides of these mountains that are along Southern California here. The high risk is in place because, one, this is kind of an unprecedented event as far as getting this much rainfall in one day. So we don't see that often in this area during this time of year. So that's why that high risk is in place. It doesn't usually happen. And it's happening in the deserts as well, where flash flooding can happen quickly. And we can expect to see roads being washed over with the rainfall, and then rivers and creeks and streams rise in level as well pretty quickly because they're not used to having the really heavy rainfall this time of year as it's pretty dry. And we're going to be seeing that all the way into southern Nevada here. But we also have the moderate risk, which is a level 3 out of 4 on that risk scale for excessive rainfall. And that also extends up to the central Nevada, where we could see some very heavy, even record-breaking rainfall in this area. So this area, we are expecting, especially in the high and moderate risks, we are expecting to see as much as 10 inches of rainfall from this system. And this is all within the next 24 hours. So, and you already started seeing the rainfall last evening. It has been moving throughout today, and it's going to continue through this afternoon and evening here. So a lot of rainfall coming, a lot of potential for flooding in this area especially. And this moderate risk even touches across Los Angeles here. So those in Los Angeles that do want to keep an eye on any roadways that easily flood, anything that is with poor drainage, but places that are really going to be wanting to keep an eye on this are recent burn-scarred areas, especially across these central valleys here. And I did see that we do have evacuations that have been posted for this area. Let me just bring up the information on that. Evacuations because of the possible flooding in these areas because of the recent burn scars. So in the near the bonfire burn scars, near Silverado Canyon and Williams Canyon, those are evacuation warnings that have been posted due to the heavy rainfall expected to continue and cause heavy flooding in this area. So anyone that is near there is going to want to pay attention to this situation and heed those warnings as they come through. Alrighty. We've also seen so we have the possibility for landslides as well and mudslides because of the heavy rainfall coming through, and even the gusty winds. So the gusty winds are really going to be localized to the mountains, 50 to 65 mile per hour winds, and that can easily cause landslide and mudslide as well when it's on top of the rainfall. So we're going to be keeping an eye out for that as well as the situation unfolds. Alrighty. So we can take a look at the weather radar. Again, let me bring this up. All right. So on the weather radar, you can find this right on your app as well. You'll be able to see the circulation of Hilary right on your app. Circulation is sitting right here across the northern half of the Baja California Peninsula, and it's churning, and it is going to be moving north-northwest into Southern California. If you've just gotten here, you just arrived to this live, welcome. We're going over Tropical Storm Hilary and its impacts for Southern California and the Southwest for today through the evening as well. So yes, you can see this weather radar imagery right on your app. And I want to show too another feature that you're going to want to pay attention to. It's our rain radar. And our rain radar shows the heavy rain rates in the area, so you can get a more localized look without having the temperatures, the satellite view, or anything like that. If you want a more specific view of the rain that is coming through your area, you can take a look at the rain radar. It's a very good tool to have, especially for these kinds of events where you're expecting the heavy rainfall. So we can see that here right on the rain radar. And what you want to pay attention to as well, you'll see the colors go from light to dark. The darker colors are showing the heavier rain rates, and they even get to purple. You can see that right here across Mexicali. They even get to purple when you've got really heavy rainfall in that area. So these are rain rates that you don't want to be driving through, you don't want to be traveling through, because flash flooding is very possible when those heavy rain rates are coming through. So when it comes to the rain rates that are coming from Hilary, we could see rain rates up to 3 inches per hour. And what that means is we could see flash flooding come very quickly in areas with poor drainage that are not used to seeing this much rainfall this time of year, especially. I mean, that's Southern California. And we're going to be seeing that heavy rainfall pile up through the rest of the afternoon and evening. Again, up to 10 inches. Areas all the way over into Los Angeles County could see widespread totals up to 3 and 5 inches. Pretty outstanding information for this time of year when it comes to Southern California and a tropical system hitting Southern California. All right, I want to double check for any questions while we're here. Awesome. So we're going to shift a little bit to the next couple of days and what Hilary is going to be bringing across the rest of the West here. Let's pull that up here on the weather radar. Alrighty. So this is the 2 p.m. Pacific time view. You can see we got some thunderstorm activity moving into Southern California later today and this afternoon. So we're going to be seeing that move through. And we're also seeing rain already reach up way into the northern Rockies and into the northern high plains here. So this is all from Hilary. And I remember, if you remember me showing you that high pressure across the central U.S., you can see how the rain is actually wrapping around the high pressure here. So that high pressure is moving in a clockwise, or turning in a clockwise fashion here. And so that rain is wrapping around the top. And that's what's happening here. That's why you're seeing that rainfall be pulled upwards from Hilary here, all the way up into the northern high plains. So that's this afternoon. Let's take a look at tomorrow. Southern California and much of the Southwest, you finally get a break from Hilary tomorrow. And this is 12 p.m. lunchtime for tomorrow. But we do have residual rainfall being shown here on the forecast on the weather radar. And rainfall being shown, again, all the way up into the northern Rockies and the high plains. So you're going to be seeing that throughout the rest of the beginning of the week as this moisture does move in. And even some thunderstorm activity as well. So I mentioned a little bit ago that we do have thunderstorm activity expected for Southern California later today. One thing you're going to want to keep an eye on too, when it comes to tropical systems, and those in Southern California, maybe you don't know this, when it comes to, because you're not used to getting these obviously, when it comes to tropical systems on the northeastern quadrant of the system, as the system is churning in a counterclockwise direction, you can get thunderstorms that are moving in here. And what that means is too, is that because some of these thunderstorms are able to rotate, we could see some tornadic activity from some of these storms that are moving through. They're usually short-lived and nothing like you see across Nebraska or anything like that. However, they can do damage. If a tornado does touch down, that can be very dangerous as well. So we've got thunderstorm activity, heavy flooding rainfall, plus tornadoes to be on the lookout for. So something you really want to pay attention to as you go about the rest of your afternoon and evening. Have at least 3 ways to receive a weather alert, because this is a pretty big situation going on here. All right, so we've covered what the next couple days are going to look like. We've covered what we're currently looking at. I'm going to double check for questions, and then we're going to move on to the Atlantic because things are still pretty busy over there as well. So I'm going to pull the weather radar over so you can get a look at what's going on in the Atlantic right now. Alrighty. As you can see a worldwide view of all of the weather that's going on across the world on the weather radar. So it's a pretty neat tool to have, especially if you live along the coasts where you're expecting tropical activity throughout the tropical season. Something you want to keep an eye on is we usually see most of the time these tropical waves are moving off of northwestern Africa here. And we already have a couple of tropical waves moving off here as well. So we are looking at right now several areas that are showing activity, and we've got 4 areas that are we're keeping an eye on right now. First of all, we do have Tropical Storm Emily. As of this morning, Emily did form, and you can see the center here. Let me show you on the wind radar. It's a little bit more organized, shown on the wind radar, so you can see just how intense Tropical Storm Emily is at the moment, with 50-mile-an-hour winds sustained across it. So you can see right here across the wind radar, turning in the counterclockwise fashion. And Emily is expected to turn to the northwest and then eventually north. So it's not going to be an issue for the East Coast or the Gulf Coast or anything like that. It is going to be, kind of an issue for any shipping areas that are out here in the Atlantic. So something, if you have interest in that, something you want to keep an eye on. Let's show too, one other area that's a little closer to home is the disturbance that is out here in the Gulf. We've been watching this one too for a while. Let's pull this up. Alrighty. So you see these clusters of thunderstorms that's moving right out here. It's bringing some heavy rainfall across Florida today, where they do have a marginal risk for isolated flooding activity. So something you want to keep an eye on if you're out in Florida today. But we do have this storm activity that is moving across the Gulf here, and it's expected to move west. And we could see some organization actually across the western Gulf here in the next couple of days. It's a 50% chance of organization in the next 48 hours. And if it were to develop into anything, it would be along the Texas coastline. So anyone who's over here does want to make sure, you do want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the weather over the next couple of days, because we could see some heavy rainfall across this area. And what comes with the heavy rainfall here, although you need it, right? You got the drought. The heavy rainfall could cause some issues when it comes to the short-term time, because you've been under really, really hot, boiling hot temperatures across this area in the triple digits and the upper 90s for several weeks now. And that's really dried out the environment. So the ground could have some issues with soaking in any rainfall, especially if it comes down quickly. So something you want to keep an eye on is for flash flooding in that area as well. It could, because the water won't be able to soak in very quickly, it could provide runoff, especially in areas that are low-lying or don't drain very well in the first place. So something you do want to keep an eye on later in the next couple of days, just this area that you want to keep an eye on. All right, and I'm going to bring up the National Hurricane Center one more time here so we can take a look at the other waves that we've got on our radar. Alrighty. So as you can see here, we've got 3 others that we're going to talk about here. We got Tropical Depression 6 that formed, and we are watching the circulation here on the weather radar. I'll pull that up in one moment so that you can actually see the circulation across that area. We've also got an area right here over the, just west of the Lesser Antilles, which we have a 90% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. We could see our next named system here across the Caribbean. And also that wave where I showed you that thunderstorm activity that was happening on the northwest side, forming off of the northwest side of Africa. That cluster of thunderstorms is being watched for activity. So the Atlantic is waking up. It's been a while since we've had actually a named storm, and Emily is the first one in a while. So we're actually seeing some activity wake up here across the Atlantic as well. So we got a lot of places to watch. We've got not only the West Coast, but also the Atlantic as well. All right, I want to make sure I have covered everything up to this point. No questions, awesome. If you do have any questions, this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, so you can be sure to subscribe so you can get all of these updates on that. But you can also comment on the video. I'll be checking that throughout the day so you can get the latest information from us. If there's anything I missed that you want to hear more about, definitely ask the questions, because it's likely someone else has the exact same question. Alrighty. Since we have covered all of that, let's do one look too across the central U.S., because I talked about how we have that high pressure that's causing the really hot temperatures across the central U.S. Let's take a look at what that looks like right now on the weather radar as well. All right, cool. So we've got our temperature radar here, which can show you the forecast for temperatures up to 4 days in advance. And you're going to want it, especially if you cross the central U.S., where these are current temperatures. It's toasty here. Dallas, 107, 103 in Wichita. Kansas City's got the low 90s. This is a toasty environment here thanks to that high pressure ridge. And what that is doing is, since I told you how it is bringing the the clockwise fashion and rotation, that is pulling up dry air out of the Mexican peninsula here, as well as the southwest, and is bringing up all that warm, dry air out of here and just dumping it across the central U.S. And that's why we see these really hot temperatures. And this isn't really going to let up over the next couple of days here. Let's show you what tomorrow afternoon looks like here across the central U.S. Not much of a difference here as we get into those really hot temperatures. Tuesday, not much of a difference here as well as we get into the triple digits, but this is getting further north, as you can see, as this high pressure ridge does strengthen. So we see 101 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota here. So we've got some hot temperatures moving across the central U.S. this week, and you're likely going to be seeing some record-breaking temperatures, not only during the day, but also at night. So there's not going to be that much relief during the nighttime hours. So windows, unfortunately, won't be an option. The AC is going to be cranking. But be sure to just check on your neighbors, check on those who are sensitive to the heat. Drink plenty of water, listen to your body. It gives off the signals that you need for heat when it comes to being too much heat. So make sure you listen to that. And check on your pets too. Don't leave anyone in the back seat. Don't leave any pets in the car. Make sure everybody's got plenty of water. Alrighty. So, as we continue, All right, Kimberly, yes. So, luckily, it will not be a hurricane anymore. So, it's already downgraded to a tropical storm. Hilary is a tropical storm. No need to worry about a hurricane. However, it will be coming up into the Palm Springs area later this afternoon into the evening. Let me show you too what that looks like on the map so that we can get you the exact timing here. Alrighty, let's look at Hilary's track here. Alrighty, so it's just going to be right over, maybe a little bit west of Palm Springs. That is the forecast area, maybe right over, because if you think of the cone here too, the eye of the tropical storm could be anywhere along this cone, right? Doesn't mean it has to be in the central area. So Hilary is expected to be later this evening over the Palm Springs area by around 5 o'clock this evening. So not too far along from now, as it does move to the north-northwest. So don't worry about a hurricane. However, it is a tropical storm. But the biggest thing, you don't want to think about the intensity of this either. The biggest thing that's coming with this is the flooding rains that you want to pay attention to for up to 10 inches of rainfall in these areas. So make sure you have your rain alert switched on in the app. I did see that we already have the tropical storm alerts active, even in Palm Springs, this is what they look like on your app, a tropical storm alert in that area. That's in Palm Springs. So several areas across Southern California likely have their tropical storm alerts on in their app, and you can see that. Just go to your settings, you can switch on alerts so you can get all that information as well. All right. Alrighty. Yes. Okay, James. So let's take a look at the weather radar again. Let me pull this up here for your rainfall. Let's take a look at the hourly. You can follow along. If you've got the app up, you can follow along here what that looks like as far as the rainfall here. Let's go to today. So you can see this is 2 p.m. Pacific time. We've got Hilary moving northward here. We got the heavy rainfall. And so we're going to take a look at what that looks like throughout the afternoon. You got this heavy rain really moving through, storm activity moving through in Southern California as well. And later this evening, even into the early overnight hours, we're going to be seeing some precipitation start to dwindle out of Southern California. So you can expect that to be really out of your area, other than maybe a few shower activity tomorrow. The bulk of the situation is going to be this afternoon and evening. So just be sure to keep an eye on that. But yes, this afternoon and evening are your peak times for that. Alrighty. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Hi, Scott. So the rainfall for the West Coast, long term, this is really good. You know, you're thinking about getting into wildfire season across the West Coast. This is a really good situation for long term, having that water there, filling up any reservoirs even more. We already saw a very, very busy winter season when it came to the wet season across the West Coast here. So long term, rainfall is great to keep this area very nice and moist throughout the next several months, especially as we get into wildfire season. It's a little bit interesting when you get into the desert Southwest, just because they're not used to seeing so much rain, and the flash flooding does occur in the short term. That's the only issue, is the short term here. So we have a lot of flash flooding and kind of situation that hasn't been seen before in this area as well. So short term, long term, there's two different ways to look at it for this. Luckily, there won't be any snow in the mountains. That's not what we're expecting right now. However, this is really good for wildfire season in the long term. But right now, we really want to focus on here is the short term impacts, just because the flash flooding could be life threatening in a lot of areas. But as far as the drought goes, I can bring up the drought real quick just so you can all see what that looks like right now. What you can see with the drought monitor right now. So as you can see, California is doing pretty well for this time of year as far as the drought goes. Yes, we have Southern California, especially in the desert here, that we've got some moderate drought to abnormally dry areas. This is probably going to help that in the long term here. So we can see some helpful rainfall from this situation. And even up here into the northern Rockies and to the northern high plains, you're going to be able to see hopefully some helpful rainfall as this does move through. Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much. Again, I will be taking questions throughout the rest of the day. Be sure to comment on this video on our YouTube page if you do have those questions. We are going to be sending out information via our live blog throughout the rest of the day as well. So if you want to keep up on the latest information, be sure to follow along with that. We'll have all the latest updates there and any information about the warnings. Like we see in the chat here, we've already got a flood warning here across the area, southern Los Angeles County. Yes. A lot of areas that are going to be seeing heavy rainfall, life-threatening rainfall, unfortunately, due to Hilary as it does move northward. So just be sure to be vigilant about moving to higher ground if you are under a flood warning, especially these areas that are already seeing that. Yes. And make sure your rainfall alerts are switched on in the app if they're not already. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you all so much. We will be doing the updates on the live blog throughout the rest of the day, so be sure to keep an eye on that as well as our social media. Thank you so much.